generations, American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian peoples have faced an ongoing crisis of violence, human trafficking, and an epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous people, also known as MMIP. In fact, Native Americans face a disproportionately high rate of violence. The lasting impact of this ongoing crisis can be felt across Indian country, urban areas, and beyond. More work must be done in order to build a safe and healthy tribal communities and keep our Indigenous people and communities whole. My name is Chance Rush, Executive Director of Our Native Men. I'm Hidatsa and enrolled with the 3 affiliated tribes on the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. Join us as we consider a path away from consistently repairing the damage that violence causes and start to consider how we, together, can begin the work on keeping us whole. During this podcast series, I will be your guide throughout the country as we speak to Indigenous people from across Turtle Island on how we can engage proactively to prevent MMIP. We'll speak with tribal leaders, community organizers, academic experts, and of course, our partners at the Administration for Native Americans, the Department of Health and Human Services, and other government agencies engaged in this work.
Episode 4, Surviving, Serving, Speaking. Segment 1, Athletes and Advocacy. This episode features Indigenous leaders and athletes using their athletic careers as platforms to serve, speak, and advocate for Indigenous communities on the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous peoples, MMIP. What MMIP looks like in their own communities and the biggest challenges impacting violence prevention. Episode 4, Surviving, Serving, Speaking. Segment 1, Athletes and Advocacy. Jordan Marie Daniel, Lakota, professional athlete, advocate, and founder-director of Rising Hearts. Episode 4, Surviving, Serving, Speaking. Segment 1, Athletes and Advocacy. Brent Cahwee, Pawnee, Yuchi, co-founder, Indian Sports. Episode 4, Surviving, Serving, Speaking. Segment 1, Athletes and Advocacy. Wayne Runnels, Cheyenne and Arapaho Tribes, Creighton University alumni, professional basketball player, Enid Outlaws. Episode 4, Surviving, Serving, Speaking. Segment 1, Athletes and Advocacy. Shauna Long, Lakota, Standing Rock Sioux, athlete and community advocate.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Prepare to be motivated. Chance with greatness starts now.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Listen, man, it has been an awesome opportunity. I want to thank, Administration for Native Americans and Our Native Men for the opportunity to do these episodes. This is episode number 4. It's our final lap here. And I love that I'm finishing this race with 4 powerful, awesome individuals. Today's program, Keeping Us Whole, our program today is Surviving, Serving, and Speaking. This program has been phenomenal. I'm really grateful and thankful for all the episodes, a podcast series brought to you by the Administration for Native Americans and Our Native Men, hosted by yours truly, 3 affiliated tribes, Newtown, North Dakota, also Dakota, also Arapaho down south, the executive director. Feels good to be here. Feels good to say that. In the recent years, states like California have been hit over and over again by brutal wildfires that tear through the dry brush and tinder, and has threatened many lives and homes for millions of people. Firefighters from across the country bravely leap into battle against these fires, giving their lives to protect others. Just a few generations ago, Californian tribes like the Yurok, Kurok, and Hoopa practiced controlled burns and other techniques to stop the fires from burning so high in the first place. Right now, we're responding to fires. Indigenous people used to prevent them. There's a similar story with violence. For generation, we've treated the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous people as something to be something to respond to. More search parties, more law enforcement, more victim services. Just like firefighters, these are a necessary part of keeping our communities safe. But just like forest fires, violence is preventable, and Indigenous people and communities have the tools, knowledge, and the wisdom to prevent it. Um, I'll be your guide in this last episode as we speak to four powerful Indigenous leaders right here and on Mother Earth here who do so many wonderful things throughout Turtle Island. And I'm so grateful and thankful to call upon these four. We have Wayne Runnels, we have Brent Cahwee, we have Jordan Marie Daniel, we have Shauna Long here with us. Wayne, I think I already said Wayne Runnels, but anyway, say it again. That's how cool he is. But let's welcome our panel of four. Let's give them a round of applause. Let them hear you. Let them hear you. All right. So you know what? I'll be honest with you. This is my last episode, and I'm just gonna enjoy it, and I'm just gonna let us have a an open floor and a panel here. Jordan, introduce yourself. How have you been, and what do you got going on these days?
That is a big question with too long of an answer. My name is Jordan Marie Brings, Three White Horses Daniel. I'm Koichasha Lakota, member of the Lower Brule Indian Reservation in central South Dakota. Currently reside on occupied Tongva lands, also known as traditional Chumash, Tongva, and Kizh territory, Los Angeles, California, and I'm the founder of Rising Hearts. I'm a professional runner and advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, and intersecting my running platform in giving awareness to this epidemic and this issue, as well as a variety of other social and racial injustice that is happening. And doing a lot of coalition building, a lot of community building, and creating programs through Rising Hearts that can really bring people together, not just Indigenous, but intersectional work and collaboration. And then I'm also a new filmmaker. My new short film, Run to Be Visible, featuring Dr. Lydia Jennings, who is an Indigenous runner. Her story is out there in the world for people to watch and to get to know. And so I'm currently here in Colorado, about to screen one of the film tonight and then tomorrow. And yeah, I just always up to a lot of things. So I'll just stop it right there.
Wow. Well, good. We're proud of you. Congratulations. And how's motherhood coming along? How's the pre-motherhood?
Motherhood.
Yeah. And well, it's already
Motherhood
it's already here. Yeah.
Yeah, motherhood is definitely different. Just I thought I would be kind of slowing down, but I found a new way to slow down while still somewhat maintaining to keep busy. Luckily, everything can be virtual, and I can do everything from the comfort of my couch or wherever I'm sitting. But yeah, baby is growing, baby's kicking right now and getting all squirmy. So it's nice to have his presence here.
Good. Well, good. And best of wishes and thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Speaking of somebody that's a firecracker, I watched this one grow up, and just relative somewhere along the way, we have the one and only Shauna Long with us. She comes to us from the Standing Rock community, and I'm really impressed with her because watching her guard Brittany Griner in the NCAA tournament. I thought that was cute. Nah, that was a lot of work, but just everywhere doing everything. So, Shauna, introduce yourself. Let's hear from Shauna Long. Give her a round of another applause. All right.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shauna Long. As he said, my Lakota name is Chunkulutowi, Red Road Woman. As he said, I come from Standing Rock. I also come from the Oglala Lakota Reservation from my dad's side, Albert Long, and my mom is Margaret Gates. And like he said, I went to Standing Rock High School. I played at Lamar University. Thereafter, I interned at Nike and Seven for a little bit before a short professional basketball stint over in Morocco, Africa. So I Yeah, that's pretty much what I did in a sense of the basketball world.
And you're a great motivational speaker, and you're a great fitness person. You know, every time I see you, you're always working out somewhere. You're going to work out or something like that. But you're also a really great speaker. So we're very fortunate to have you on there. And then your partner in crime there, man, boss man himself. You know, go ahead, the one and only Wayne Runnels, Watonga's finest, Shauna Arapaho's finest. To the Creighton Blue Jay, right? He was also on the NCAA commercial, and I was just bragging that I was his relative. You know, we only brag when you know we say that we're your relative whenever you do something really cool. So, Wayne, man, introduce yourself. Tell us what you got going on, man.
Hello, everybody. Hello, my name is Wayne Runnels. I was born in Clinton, Oklahoma. That's where my mother and part of my family lived at the time. Raised in Watonga. As my guy said, I most recently was a member of the Enid Outlaws of the TBL. We had a very successful summer. We won the entire thing. Currently, I'm still in training. I am actually in preparation to go over to Mexico. I'm leaving here shortly. I'm actually really excited about it. I mean, this is what I've been working on for so long, truly. And it almost seems as if, you know, times now were unheard of back in maybe 5-7 years ago and things of that nature. But it's really exciting times now, And I just can't wait to see how far I can take it, truly.
Well, you've been going nonstop, you know, Wayne. And honestly, if it's not this, you know, league, you're playing in a summer league, you're playing, you know, and I'm glad that you're still going after you know, your calling, you know, so very proud of you.
Thank you.
A lot of y'all know this young man here, the man of the hour. The two men of the hour. This is Brent Cahwee. He comes to us from Haskell Nations University, Lawrence, Kansas, I believe. Are you still up in Lawrence there, Brent?
Yeah.
Okay. And a co-founder of IndianSports.com. Go ahead. I give this to you, man. Just you know, go ahead and share with us and open up, introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, Chance, for having me on. Hello, my name is Brent Cahwee. I'm an enrolled member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma, but I'm also a member of the Yuchi tribe through the Creek Nation. I'm part of the polecat ceremony grounds, and I'm the co-founder of IndianSports.com, going on 21 years now, if you can believe it. And it's been getting, yes, thank you. Yes, it's been getting a lot more active in the past 5 or 6 years. Been trying to make more connections and get further out into Indian country. You know, Indian Sports has always been an online platform and continues to be an online platform. But there hasn't been really a lot about who we are and what we do. And I'm just trying to get out more and introduce myself to people and try to expand the mission of IndianSports.com, which has the goal of promoting Native American athletes across Indian country through our medium, and also try to grow educational and sports events through Indian country as well.
Right. Hey, Brent, let me just stay with you real quick. First question to you is why and how important is it to promote sports in our tribal communities?
I mean, sports is the foundation almost, you know, of your youth. As much as parents raising you and grandparents raising you, you're playing sports in some form, some fashion. You know, it's a part of our communities. It's a part of our waves. Every tribe, every person watching this video has a tribal game they've played before growing up, whether it's on their ceremonial grounds, whether it's through their teachings. Sports is impactful from a young age. And of course, we transition those into more modern sports as well. So I think you can't go across Indian country and not look at any of our Indigenous leaders and they don't have some type of sports background. And even if it's just coaching, and even if it's just being a supporter of athletics, it's an integral part of our communities for that collaboration, for that growth, for you know, inspiring the next generation. So,
mm-hmm. You know, Jordan, what has running done How has it influenced your life?
I'm a fourth generation runner, so it's literally been in my blood and my family for so long. And I have my Lala Nile Brings 3 white horses to really thank for that. But it's been something that has really transformed. I feel like running not only teaches you a lot of lessons, but it kind of helps you just grow as a person. And for me, it started out as keeping up with this family tradition, feeling like I was in the cool club because my grandfather was training for the Olympics. My mom was training for the '88 Olympics, and she was a sprinter. My biological dad was a long distance runner, and we just had so many runners within our families. So I kind of felt like I was in this cool club, got to be part of it, really enjoyed it and liked it. But then college came, and towards the end of even high school, it kind of transformed into being a Native athlete, especially in a community where I was living in the state of Maine, which is very not diverse, being the only student of color. It really just was about representation and like trying to make my community back home in South Dakota proud. And hopefully it inspires, my nieces and nephews to want to pick up running or at least pick up a sport, and that, we can be accepted and supported within those spaces. And then college came, and overcoming an eating disorder and kind of having a new relationship with running, of caring for myself and really looking towards running as a healing source for me, really just became about finding the love of running for myself for the first time. It wasn't about family. It wasn't about representation. It was truly just falling in love with the sport. And that's when kind of everything transformed and changed for me, in terms of performance, in terms of just loving running more and being more dedicated and committed to it. And then everything changed as soon as Standing Rock happened, with the youth that ran from Cannonball to DC being asked to organize something to welcome the youth to DC. And so that was my firsthand experience of being a grassroots organizer, was organizing the Run for Water rally from the Supreme Court to Army Corps of Engineers, where we had everyone in the youth run from there, protest, and just do a lot of amazing things that were all youth centered. And so seeing how our youth were using running as a way to carry these messages, to carry this specific purpose and this call to action, really inspired me to ask me, like, Jordan, what are you doing? Like, how can you combine both running and advocacy? Because for so long I had compartmentalized it to kind of protect running, to keep it in its own bubble, for a long time, and did my advocacy separate. And when I just saw the youth, really using their voice and using their bodies, to really raise awareness about the Dakota Access Pipeline and what was happening, really just inspired me to kind of intersect the two. And then everything kind of came to a head in 2019 with the Boston Marathon, by running for 26 missing and murdered Indigenous women. And now it's something that I've been doing ever since. We do virtual runs that carry a purpose and a message and a call to action with every single thing that we do, and trying to inform Indigenous peoples about all of these causes, good and bad, that we are fighting for, or fighting to protect, as well as like trying to call in people to expand their perspective and to support Indigenous voices and leaders within those spaces.
Wow. Great. Man, that's good, great information, honestly. In so many different places, I would love to run more. I just turned 46 and I stretch, I do everything I'm supposed to do, but man, I just have a hard time with my knees. And they start kicking in, like when it comes, October, you just start feeling it, like before you run, you feel it. And then, so I miss running, but like I said, I do the Peloton, but what you were talking about, it's a lot of things, as a runner, I don't know if I know I'm not fast like you, Jordan, but I do. I remember that my mom used to always tell me, you're running for your people, and any problems that they're, going through or dealing with, or anything that they're excited about, that's who you're running for. So, good information on that. Going over here real quick, to Shauna and Wayne. One thing that I'm really grateful for, with you two, is like I said, I've known y'all for a long time. And, I asked them two questions. My question for you two is, how has sports or how has athletics, help you in your guys' relationship? Because, I know that I call you like the dynamic duo. Brent calls you double trouble. I call you the dynamic duo. And a lot of it is because, you guys are just really two positive people. You're always encouraging people in your respective communities in Fort Yates and the surrounding area, as well as, with Tonga and El Reno. Every time we do, we have respect programs, you're always involved, Wayne. And how has athletics, brought some interest to your guys' relationship? Why is it important to have athletics in your relationship?
So interesting enough, that's actually how we met. Well, we met at a basketball tournament in Florida at the time. But as far as athletics itself, it's played a major key in my life, in my role, not just basketball alone. I mean, I grew up playing baseball, football, and I eventually ran track as well. Even though I didn't want to. I high jumped, and then I would go to play baseball games in like the afternoons. And it just happened to be a practice meet in which we didn't have a baseball game afterwards. And Coach Coleman was like, "You're gonna run," and I ended up doing well, and so forth and so on. But it has definitely brought me a lot of ups, a lot of downs as well, a lot of life lessons in the sense of competition, camaraderie, and things of that nature. And in a sense of our relationship, and in which she can share more, and she's probably going to have a lot sweeter words or kinder words than myself. But it's helped us tremendously. Throughout our time together, we've been blessed and able to travel all across the country and still be able to play the game. And we have tons of stories. Tons of stories that most may not, get to share or have in a year's time or however not. We just came from a tournament in Wisconsin in which we spent some time up there, and that was a lot of fun itself. But it's really helped us in keeping us. Helping us stay each other, keep accountable in that nature as well. But I'll let you.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a really good question. That's something that I feel like a lot of people look at us and assume that, it's super easy to like get up and work out and, play basketball, which it was at a time. We've been blessed to be able to travel. Like we've been to, I think, around like 25 states in the last 4 years together, and our dog has been now to 10 states. I'm very proud of that. We've been able to travel. And I think one year that really sticks out to me significantly is, I think it was 2018 or 19, where it was like a tournament during the weekend and we would do camps during the week and then a tournament. And we did this huge American road trip where we went to Yellowstone and Glacier and the Grand Canyon all in one fall swoop. But we were able to also go and visit communities. We did some camps in the meantime. We went back and forth to MHA actually, and we did a couple camps up there. And for us to be able to, I guess, really step into this new role of we're not the young kids anymore, but kind of passing that knowledge on has been an acceptance sort of thing. We both had knee injuries and surgeries in 2019. So it was everything kind of got put to a halt. And I think were forced to look outside of the athletics for the first time in our life, which was really, really difficult. I think for me personally, I battled depression and huge anxiety issues to where I was like, dang, when you don't have sports, this is really hard. And so having each other there first and foremost was, I think, a blessing, because we both had PT. 6 exercise 6 times a day. We had to be moving our leg and setting timers for icing and doing all this crazy stuff while also not having basketball at the forefront of our lives anymore. So there was some ups and downs as far as learning how to deal with that, because when you take something away that's been at the core of your life for your pretty much entire life, it's been, I think, a relearning experience, and also a thing to where we don't take it for granted anymore. I know I don't play professionally anymore. Wayne, of course, is still playing, but getting to approach it with a whole new gratitude has been really refreshing, I think, for both of us, I would say.
Yeah. Hey, and thank you for that, and also just thank you, for being a grounded person, and being encouraging all the time, to our young ladies, and again the same way with Jordan. I mean, um, I hope and pray that we get more and more of our sisters out there to push and promote through athletics. We've got so many wonderful lawyers and teachers, and but it's good to see our sisters who are sports, and that's how we're all gathered here together. Through sports, it does wonders in our lives. So thank you all. And listen, I know you guys have just limited time with me, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump on in it. So my first question here, well, after we introduced my first question, Jordan, what does MMIP look like in the communities you come from, and what are some biggest challenges you're facing?
I think just the communities, specifically just from home back in South Dakota, but the places that I've lived, is that it's very present. It's not an isolated incident. It's not just happening within one community or one region of the United States. This violence, this history of violence, this epidemic of violence extends beyond colonial borders. And just throughout my growth in just becoming an MMIR, missing and murdered Indigenous relatives advocate, is being able to sit, listen, and learn, listen to the stories from other families that through running, especially since I started dedicating every single run to someone who is missing or who has been taken, and intersecting that even with what's been recently happening with the boarding schools and the residential schools, as they both intersect and are fully, aligned in this long history of violence, is being able to talk to the families, being able to hear who their relative is, especially when you're not paying attention to social media or to media itself, which sometimes can dehumanize the person who sadly is missing or who has been taken. But listening to the story, listening to what's needed, we really need to have everything being informed when we're creating task forces, when we're creating working groups, when we're creating programs, especially if they are being created by non-Indigenous led voices or organizations, is that they really need to be present in every single conversation, that they need to be present in the development of how do we stop this? How do we end this violence? How do we continue to raise awareness? How can we protect our relatives? And it's just been listening to the stories of advocates, to survivors of violence, being a survivor of violence myself, having my own, lived experience with that, really informs how I approach trauma, anything that is trauma informed, within the advocacy work that I do, and what I do with others and how we collaborate together, especially with other Native nonprofits that are focusing on ending this violence and providing resources and support to the families, and to the survivors. And I think just some of the barriers, Advocacy of the Sovereign Bodies Institute, and as it's stated in the MMIWG report, is, our relatives have a really hard time just getting the visibility, the families getting the visibility, and that their fight becomes 3 times harder. They go missing in life, they go missing in the media, and they go missing in the data. And so just that alone is like kind of the 3 pillars of what those barriers look like. Of not only do we have to continue to raise awareness and advocate and really mobilize to act quickly to find a relative if they have been missing, because then we're coming up with barriers of having to report them missing to law enforcement, who half the time aren't taking it seriously. And sometimes you have to wait the full 24 hours, 48 hours, or 72 hours to be able to report them. And then sadly, all of that responsibility is left on the families or the advocates who are trying to find their loved one. And sometimes it's even them who find their loved one and it was too late. And so it's really pushing for accountability and for justice and for reform within those institutions to end institutionalized racism within those spaces, but also trying to create pathways forward within those institutions and those mechanisms within the federal government to have training to help eliminate that racism that exists, to create programming that is very informative for them to become more knowledgeable within these spaces of how can we best support the families, how can we not dehumanize this person who has gone missing or who has been murdered, and how can we fight for justice, not just for them, but their families and their communities, and how can we keep people safe. And then we have to, take that into the media too. We have to talk, anytime I'm working with media, reporters, writers, I really heavily advocate to see the finalized version of anything before it's published, because all too often we have seen content go out that is actually really harmful to the families and actually dehumanizes the person that we're trying to be helping to, find justice and find solution and healing. So I really heavily advocate to see the finalized version, to have the families be involved in that process if we're working with families, to be part of these interviews or to be part of these public service announcements or short films or anything, is making sure that we're part of that process so that we have control of our own narrative and how things are being put out. Because that has also been a very big struggle with what we've seen recently with with Gabby Petito's case and how much publicity that her story got versus the thousands of Indigenous women and children and relatives who go missing every year, and how that is drastically different for any POC person who has gone missing or who has been murdered, and just not the same support and the same systems that they're provided that someone like Gabby Petito would be able to get. So those are just a lot of barriers. But I think the whole thing through my journey is just being able to have these conversations and to always continue learning from the families, from the advocates, and finding new ways to collaborate. And one thing that we do at Rising Hearts is we offer safety training classes to be on the preventative side, to help you redefine what does safety look like for you. And it's open to everyone. It's taught by Coalition and Tower Thompson, who is an amazing woman and sister, Indigenous sister, and an MMA fighter. So she's really just great. But this has been a very insightful class, but it helps you create a plan in case something does happen. We know how to act. You have people involved that are part of that plan. So there's a phone tree, everything that you have. We've had youth, we've had elders participate, we've had men, women, LGBTQ folks. It's just been really insightful, and something that I really heavily advocate in promoting of we know how to respond when something does happen, sadly, and I wish that weren't the case, but how can we create these preventative pathways forward to hopefully help decrease the violence that is happening and to decrease these incidents from happening?
Yeah, good feedback there. And let me jump over to you real quick, Shauna. She brought up a point about the young lady in Wyoming, but the thousands of Indigenous peoples who are not even thought of, it seems. I mean, the media is not getting it right, but what about us, Shauna? Are we doing enough in our tribal communities? Are we speaking up and stepping out? Are we doing it? Are we going all out?
My initial answer is no, because I feel like we can always do more. Just to be really frank here, I talk with Brent a lot in regards to my stance in politics when it comes to Standing Rock. I love my home. Wayne can tell you, he don't understand sometimes, but I am super passionate about Standing Rock. And
well, he better love your home too.
He does. I actually had struggles when I worked under a tribal administration with sexual harassment being taken lightly. And to me, it's very difficult because we have people like Jordan who on a national level is advocating for such important things and really trying to open up the door to allow outside people to understand what we're going through when we have it happening in our own backyard. It makes it really difficult. And I feel like we are coming into a time where communities are starting to stand together and ask, why is this happening? Why isn't anybody advocating? Who is letting this happen? And realizing, I think Jordan touched on it as well, the historical piece that's alongside of this. Historically, there's just a lot of unhealed, I think, trauma that has to be addressed within our community. Well, first within our initial family structure, and then within our communities, and then it'll branch out into our tribes. And really, I think that's where the main ripple, where we have to on the ground level help Jordan, whereas she's doing a lot of outward work where we have to be on the community level advocating as well, advocating for one another. And that means, men, women, children, everybody, because it is a difficult space, and women or men aren't always in a place to where they feel like they're in a safe space to share what is happening to them. And for us to want to highlight that on a large level, it makes it really tough when our own communities don't want to do that ourselves. So no, I don't think we are doing enough, but I do think within communities, there's ripple effects happening because people aren't just sitting back anymore. And I like to consider myself one of those people.
Well, you absolutely are. Over the years, seeing you at camps and your advocacy, and your outreach, you both you young ladies are, I'm thankful and grateful to know both of you. So thank you for your hard work and all that you do. And also, speaking of just, athletics, Wayne, what opportunities has your athletic career given you to speak up for Indigenous communities?
So I would say my most recent stint in the TBL, actually just today, they posted a Native American Heritage Month post and tagged me and two of my former teammates. And I think not only just basketball, but finding more of myself has really allowed me to speak up and be confident with what I'm saying in the sense of the information I'm putting out. As far as basketball goes, I think it just gives me the platform to really do it. I like to think that I'm more than just basketball. That's one thing that growing up, when you do a thing your entire life, and then all of a sudden, after 22 years, it's taken away, and not necessarily taken away, but it's you're done, and you're not going professionally right after. You kind of, not, I wouldn't say struggle, but one thing I would like to point out would be Lakota Beatty's post. I'm sorry, that's what I think, right? Yeah. But it was she broke it down really well in the sense of the after collegiate life and that aspect. But as far as basketball itself, it's really just helped me break down a lot of doors. And honestly, again, I like to revert back football and baseball as well. I have a lot of friends through certain softball leagues that I played in, and flag football leagues and things of that nature. But as far as just trying to make the information more presentable and accessible to in certain areas that they're not, because I myself, growing up in Watonga, I wasn't raised in a Native American household. I was raised on my dad's side, which is my African American side, and so really just finding out the information and learning the information myself, and reading books and things like that, and just trying to spread along that information. And another thing to share on, a new hashtag that I've been using, just to kind of maybe if kids are struggling with, who am I? Am I Native American? Am I African American? Am I, because in Oklahoma there's a lot of mixed races, and that thing is the hashtag African King, along with my Cheyenne and Arapaho tag, just to let kids know that it's okay to express yourself in a sense of what you are, if you are multiple ethnicities or things of that nature. So, but again, basketball has definitely allowed me that platform, and it's interesting when you can put a ball through a hoop. People look at you a little differently, like you know more things than other as well. But I like to think that I'm a personable person as well, people person. I like to talk to anybody in the sense of that, and I think basketball has puts me in a light to where people feel comfortable reaching out to me. So
right, and I'll tell you this, and you hit it right on the nail. Like, I know if me and you and Reggie and JR all sat down, I know we'd have a good rag session, and we don't care how tall you are, we don't care if you play D1,
exactly.
and we're just going to go at it if we can go at it, So absolutely, and you guys, all four of you are right on. You have to be grounded, and you have to take your opportunity to be on that platform. So thank you for that. Brent, and going through different tribal communities or even your own community, what opportunities or resources do your communities have to help prevent violence? Or it could be another one that you maybe visit, another community you've visited.
Oh man, that's a good one. Preventing violence is, you always have to go back to the root cause of it all. Wherever if that's in the household, if it's outside the household, you got to find that healing point, and find out, kind of what's, if you're from a violent community, or not community, but from a violence in your background, from whatever reasons, whether you're abused or an abuser, you really have to pinpoint the root cause of where does this violence come from? Is it something that you learned? Is it something that is born because that's all you know? There's people that, whether they jokingly do it or not, they just hit you for no reason. Make a joke, they hit you. It's like, wait, why are you always hitting people? But violence is rooted from a young age, and if you don't figure out, exactly what the cause of that violence is, where it comes from, or where it's rooted in, then you're going to carry it on to the next generation, and that's what you got to have communities have resources, so you're not passing along generational violence. And again, that could come from many things, and as we've seen with the residential boarding schools, you almost want to say that's a huge part of it. This is where the abuse that our grandfathers and great grandmothers and so on and so forth were traumatized. And I always talk about, I watched my uncle struggle with substance abuse, but I know he came from a generation where it was tough to be a Native American male, in that time, whether it was the 70s or 80s, and you had the Vietnam War, you had the AIM movement. So you have a lot of things going on, and then you're not accepted in your community, and your fathers, and grandfathers, are coming out of residential boarding schools, and it's, you have to get down to the root cause of it before you can address it. And I think in some form or some fashion, we're, as Native American descendants or relatives, we're faced with that in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not immune from it. Jordan's not immune from it. Chance isn't immune from it. Shauna and Wayne aren't immune from it. It's all in our background.
Mm-hmm.
But coming out and talking about it and trying to ask yourself, why is violence in our community? How do we stop it? Well, there's not going to be a program, or there's not going to be a giant spokesman or a motivational speaker that's going to come in and change everything. We have to fix things at the local level.
Mm-hmm.
What are the movements, MMIWP, whether it's, doing better, our tribal councils doing better. I was like, we have to start the movement. We have to be the people on the ground, boots on the ground people are the ones that are making changes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Jordan's been so successful. She's on the ground, she's living it, she's doing it, and she's not waiting on 4 councilmen to say, yes, let's do it. She's just doing it. And I think if everyone approached that same philosophy in addressing substance abuse, violence, MMIW, then we'll get things done, fixed a lot quicker than if we say, well, it's up to our tribal leaders to do it. And honestly, tribal leaders have a lot of responsibility, and I'm not dogging on any of them, because we have a lot of great of them, and it's a tough job. But if you think about it, the job of the tribe is to, run the government's day-to-day operations and dealing with the federal government. And that's great, but they're also in charge with running the community as well. But we can't always rely on one person to handle all of our issues. We all have to be boots on the ground. It's great to see like Wayne being in the community and Shauna being in the community. And that's why, we look to them. I look to them, I look to Jordan too. I mean, every time I, looking for sports information, I get to see their names. I get so excited because I remember every single thing they do. I remember when Wayne won the Navy championship, I was there. I remember when he played for CNA and Reggie, and yeah, you were there. And
respect.
Yeah. And I remember when Shauna would have 14 or 20 point games, and she was like making 7 3-pointers in a row and stuff like that. I mean,
being five something,
Yeah. And those are the ones that I like to give voices to, no disrespect to any tribal leader, no disrespect to those people out there leading our Indian country. We need them, but we also need these people on this platform too, and taking them out of the sports world and putting them into the mainstream world is definitely a goal of what Indian sports has always been about as well. Because we understand, I've seen it. Like I said, I've been doing this for 21 years. There's a life cycle of a Native athlete from the time they go to high school, college, and post-college. And I've seen the data, I've seen the outcomes. I know where they're headed. I know what's going to happen to them next and stuff like that. But that's where we have to look, going back to what I'm just trying to say, is we have to look at the root cause of our violence individually and solve our own solutions, which in turn will allow us to solve bigger solutions.
Wow, good stuff. Man, I wish I could have you guys on here longer, but I know we all have to get going here. But this is just a question, even just away from. I have one final question for you all. You guys can answer it real quick, but just going over. You're mentioning Shauna, scoring a bunch of buckets, at the highest level, playing college at the highest level. Real quick, Shauna, what could you share with girls who are short, not ragging on you, but girls who are short, playing at a high level? Like what would you tell them? Because I know either they're listening or their parents are listening. Like you're not supposed to be D1. You're too small to be D1. But what's some advice you can give them?
Let Wayne get his caffeine slurps out of there. I would say I feel like my family did a really good job. I have to give kudos to my dad, rest in peace. He never allowed me to use that as an excuse. I just wasn't allowed to. I started playing competitively at 3rd grade, which is super intense especially on the res, because Standing Rock still doesn't have programs for kids that age. So my parents kind of took it under their own wing to put a team together. And from there, I mean, there was almost like no excuses. I think I've also learned to balance that, to also not hold myself to such a high standard, but just to feel like you can do anything. I feel like my goal of playing D1 basketball was a goal of mine when I was like 3rd or 4th grade. So for me, it never really seemed impossible. And I have to give a huge shout out to Brent as well as Dale Pine Jr., who really, I think, helped my career by getting video, putting film together, and doing outreach that being on a reservation school, not getting a chance to play AAU basketball, like kids nowadays, things are on Instagram and it's like, boom, things happen really quickly. Whereas, back then it was difficult to get the highlight tapes together and you had to do it old school, sending to emails and things of that nature, but really just feeling like there was nothing that could stop me. I know that sounds like a crazy thing, but I really believe in the power of our mind. And, I just getting a chance to play, we were invited out to the Nike Interstate Shootout. And at that time, I don't think people realized that halfway through my senior year, I hadn't had any offers yet, not even a school in North Dakota. I did have one school in North Dakota that came to visit and wanted me to walk on and said, well, you're Indian, right? So you can get your school paid for. Which really highly offended me because I really felt like I put in so much work and it wasn't for that. It wasn't to go walk on at a school for someone who said I was Indian, right? And also just standing in that power. My mom, as crazy as she is, makes sure that my voice is heard and that I always feel like I'm 6 feet tall. So Wayne will tell you
you're not lying there. She would make it sound like you're 6 feet tall. You're not lying there.
Yes. And so for me, it's just really not even about your your body, but your spirit in all actuality, and also putting in the work. I don't ever want to like minimize that part. It was a lot of hard work. I lifted so much weights. I had to do a lot of extra things, and I wasn't the quickest person ever on the team. So I had to learn different angles and different footwork to be able to like keep up and to be able to use my body in different ways. But just also being open to not being afraid to fail. That's, you know, I always tell the story where I really wanted to go back home and go to a junior college because I was really afraid when I got to Lamar. I was like, oh man, I don't think I can do this. You know, this was my first time living off the res, and I felt like I was slurped up into a world that I had no idea about, and just stepping into your power. And I think Jordan touched on it about really just standing in who you are out in this whole different realm and whole different world. You almost feel that power. And it's kind of the same thing that Wayne mentioned, you know, once you realize and you step into who you are, it almost feels otherworldly, I'll say, because that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, this was a great episode. Surviving, serving, and speaking. Athletes and advocacy. Thank you guys for all coming on. Real quick, just real fast. Let's final lap it. Just, you know, quickly, but take your time. Let me ask you this, a question for each and every one of you. How can young athletes join your efforts? How can young athletes join what you guys got going on? Go ahead, Brent. We'll start with you.
I'm probably the simplest answer out of this group. Definitely follow all of the Indian sports social media accounts. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook as well at indiansports.com or just indiansports.com as well. Connect through us there, you know, share your information, pass along information. Our whole goal, again, is to promote Native American athletes and continue to support athletes like Wayne and Shauna and Jordan as they continue their careers out in Indian country. And, you know, if you got information you want to share, or if you even want to learn about, you know, what I do, I actually posted on my social media earlier about I need an assistant now, because that's kind of where I'm at. And right now, I think that's up to like, you know, 50 likes and people already in my inbox at this point in time. But a lot of former D1 athletes too, so I must be doing something right. But definitely reach out to me that way. You know, let's grow this thing called Indian sports. Let's get it out there. Let's use its voice, its potential, and advocate for our Native American athletes and their causes.
All right, thank you for that, Shauna. Wayne, go ahead. How can young athletes join your efforts?
I feel like, I know it sounds super cliche, but of course, following us on our social media as well. We both just talked about how a lot of people ask us about, you know, nutrition and what do we do to exercise and different things like that. And I think we're in a space mentally, spiritually, physically to be able to start sharing those sorts of things outside of our home, because of it's tough to walk the lifestyle and also share it because it's tough to mess up. But those are learning processes for everybody. And we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to pass that knowledge on and kind of share our story of how we started to, you know, approach life a little differently as far as fitness, nutrition, lifestyle. But we also, like saying that to say, we also are going to start sharing more. So keeping a lookout on our social media. We will look to get camps going, things of that nature. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I'll let Wayne go.
Not necessarily. I think along with sharing the fitness, look out for a combined fitness page or something of that nature. I will be leaving here shortly, but that doesn't mean that we still can't put content out or things of that nature. But myself personally, it's just Wayne Runnels on Instagram or Facebook. I share my workout videos from time to time. And again, the one thing that I would like to add with that is go at your own pace and it's often said, but don't compare yourself to other people in the gym or other people on social media, because no one posts ugly pictures and or bad days at that, for sure. And take your time. In high school, so the stories of, you guys know me for a long time, but what you guys aren't sharing is that I was little, this little.
I thought thought you was Andre sometimes.
For sure. And so that little bit, my head was all the same size, unfortunately enough. But no. It's a process. It's really a process, and listen to your body. And that's another thing that I learned with coming back from my ACL injury. Of course, I wanted to be right on the court the very next day, but it's a process, and listen to your body. But and in person as well. If you see me in person, come up to me. I like talking to kids. I like speaking and sharing knowledge and things of that nature. But for the most part, social media, and be yourself. Be yourself with whatever you want to do, with whatever movements you want to do, whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, or weightlifting, or walking. Whatever you want to do, just be yourself and have fun with it is really the message that I like to share.
Good. I appreciate that. Thank you. And then also, Jordan, go ahead and close us out here. Also, plug this real quick for us. Wellness Through Movement program.
Yes. As I mentioned earlier before, we like to do preventative, classes for everyone to be part of and to learn from. So one of the classes that we have coming up with Cola Ship and Tower Thompson, she's doing her safety training class, part of her Wasawaka project, to really help you redefine what does safety look like, build a plan, have people be part of that plan. And that way we can act quickly in case something does ever happen. So that's coming up, I believe, on November 17th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. These classes, not just this class, we have a handful more, a dozen more. These classes are virtual, they're donation based. You can have the opportunity to purchase the membership program, so you have access to all of them. We record our classes and workshops, but they're just really great community-based events for you to prioritize your own self-care through movement, but also be able to learn something more than that, and to be able to bring that back with you. So that's coming up soon during this awesome month, Native American Alaska Native Heritage Month. We get to celebrate all month long and then any other day of the year. But for youth, you can find me on social media. I really try and make myself as approachable as possible. I really spend a lot of time trying to get to those requests that are in the DMs and really try and to engage in conversation. And that's how I've been able to meet so many amazing people and connect with youth too, who have had questions of how do you start running? How do I get started? How do you train for this? Or what is your mindset like for this? Or can we have you on our panel at our high school, which I think is just so inspiring to see and to know that I get to be part of that with them. But yeah, you can find me on social media, especially Instagram at native_in_LA. And then you can follow Rising Hearts at rising_hearts, or you can visit risinghearts.org, where we list all of our programs and our classes that you can participate in. And you can also participate in our virtual runs, because our virtual runs are our biggest fundraising platform to not only support Rising Hearts, but also we've donated over $200,000 back into community to several different organizations that are focused on Run for Breonna Taylor, on intersectionality, on boarding schools, missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, Land Back, International Indigenous Youth Council, and a handful more that we've been supporting. So our virtual runs are very fun. We try and make it educational and informative. We do giveaways, we have gift cards. So we have 2 coming up this month, Carrying Our Medicine with National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. And then we also have the Truths Giving 4 miler coming up later at the end of the month.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Jordan. Thank you. Thank all you guys for joining us, man. We had a good day. This was our 4th and final segment here, episode 4, Surviving, Serving, and Speaking. I want to thank Brent. I want to thank Jordan. I want to thank Shauna. I want to thank Wayne. Best of luck over there, man. Again, I want to give a big shout out to Keeping Us Whole, Preventing Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples, a podcast series brought to you by the Administration for Native Americans and Our Native Men. I want to thank you guys for letting me host this these 4 powerful episodes. I'm Chance Rush, chancerush.com. Man, I'm proud of each and every one of you guys. Thank you for joining us. And with that being said, this concludes our 4 episodes. Thank you, ANA and Our Native Men. Great partnership. All right, everybody, we are out of here. Good night.
Please visit the following websites to identify federal resources to assist communities in preventing MMIP. The Administration for Children and Families ACF MMNA Framework landing page, https://www.acf.hhs.gov/ANA/MMNA-framework, ACF's Family and Youth Services Bureau, Domestic Violence Resource Network, https://www.acf.hhs.gov/FYSB/FV-centers. The Administration for Native Americans Domestic Violence Awareness Public Service Announcements, https://www.acf.hhs.gov/ANA/domestic-violence-PSAs. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Violence Prevention Resource page, https://www.cdc.gov/violence prevention. U.S. Department of Interior's Indian Affairs Missing and Murdered Unit, www.bia.gov/service/MMU. The U.S. Department of Justice MMIP landing page, www.justice.gov/tribal/MMIP. We would like to thank all the speakers for their time, support, and dedicated commitment to the MMIP podcast series. Through continued advocacy and collaboration, we can work together to end the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous people, MMIP. The views and opinions of featured speakers on the MMIP podcast series are solely theirs and should not be attributed to the Department of Health and Human Services, the Administration for Children and Families, or the Administration for Native Americans.